And welcome to another Arsecast Extra, as always, with James from Blog. James, good evening to you.
Good evening, Andrew. How are you?
I'm all right. You know, this is weird because we normally record, let's say, the day after, or sometimes if we play on a Saturday, it's a Monday when we record. So you've got lots of time to let the emotions wash out of your body, whichever orifice they come out of. But that's not the case this time. This is, you know, pretty soon after the final whistle. So I will say I am obviously frustrated at having lost a game to Liverpool and frustrated at some of the things that maybe I thought we could do better. But I'm not like going out of my mind either.
No. I mean, yeah, listen, I as soon as the full-time whistle went, I thought,
oh, fuck.
In fact, before that, as soon as Szoboszlai scored that extraordinary goal, I thought, well, you know, Sky have got their narrative, haven't they? Gary Neville's got his narrative that he wanted. The overlap have got...
Yeah.
There's the same old chat that they have about Arsenal, they can have again. Paul Scholes can still moan about when we drew against Man City 2 years ago or whatever it was.
With his daughter's toe in his mouth or not?
I'm not sure, actually. Not sure at that specific moment. But I just thought, oh, God, we're in for more of this crap, really, aren't we? And
I guess so.
It's not that it's completely... It's not that it's completely without merit or that there's not an element of truth in that analysis, but I just think it's so lazy and reductive.
It's one-sided.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's one-sided. This was a game against the champions at home. I went and had a quick look at the stats, and people can take stats whatever way they want to take the stats. But, you know, Liverpool had 53% possession. We had 47% possession. We had 11 shots. They had 9 shots. Their XG was 0.45. Ours was 0.55. This was not a game where I think you can level an accusation of caution at just one team.
No.
That's just, and listen, I'll talk about it, and I think there are things that maybe we could have done and could have done differently and maybe could have done sooner in this game. But at the same time, it's not as if we were on the receiving end of a pummeling by Liverpool. Liverpool, despite whatever you might think about the starting lineup or the team selection, Liverpool didn't cause us very many problems in the first half, a few more problems in the second half. And ultimately, what decided this game was an absolutely brilliant free kick from Dominik Szoboszlai, who, by the way, you know, we very rarely give flowers to opposition players, but what a game he had at right back. And that's maybe a criticism of our attackers, implied criticism, or maybe we'll get into that a little bit, but I thought he was really, really good in a position that's not his own. And then he pulled out something that is like absolutely brilliant to win the game. And look, nobody wants to hear that it was fine margins when you lose a game, but I think it really was. And maybe we could have done things that could have tipped the margins a bit more in our favor. But when you look at how it played out and what we all saw, I think you saw two teams that had a lot of respect for each other, that were kind of slightly afraid of each other. And it was decided really late on by something absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I am too. And as you say, we are speaking sort of relatively fresh off the final whistle. So perhaps we'll have a different perspective tomorrow. But yeah, I also thought I didn't think this was a particularly high quality game.
Agree,
I thought there was sloppiness from both sides, uncharacteristic at times. You know, I would say Mo Salah's performance, for example, characterised that. There were 3 or 4 moments where last season, at least, he would have managed to get a shot away, but his touch wasn't quite good enough. And I think Ricardo Calafiori did a pretty decent job on him as well.
I agree.
You know, we had moments in possession that, you know, in our own half at times, which were a little bit sloppy, or certainly moments of I don't know, maybe indecision in the final third, or not taking the right action or executing it. I thought it was a cautious game all round by two sides who probably recognised that at this early stage of the season, a draw was kind of. I don't want to get in trouble with your Nevilles and your Scholeses, but a draw did kind of suit everybody here. And to be honest, the only thing that stopped it being a draw was that a bloke stepped up and smashed the ball into the top corner from 30 yards.
Yeah. Of course, people will say, it's on you if you don't take advantage of, a moment or a game or a period in the game where maybe you could do something to rectify that. But look, you can. I just don't. I think it is not an unreasonable accusation or suggestion that Mikel Arteta can be a bit cautious. Not at all. But, I saw a game plan which might not have been that exciting, but which for the most part worked away from home against, a very good team against the champions. And, we fell foul of that late moment. So
first half, I mean, I don't think you'll see many teams. In fact, I might venture to say any team go to Anfield and have that degree of comfort that Arsenal did in that first 45 minutes. And when you consider that they were doing that without some of their best players, especially once Saliba had gone off the pitch.
This is it. This is it.
You have the context, haven't you?
Yeah, I think this is something we have to recognize as well. That I am frustrated. Of course I'm frustrated. But I think you also have to look at the fact that we've gone to Liverpool without Bukayo Saka, without Kai Havertz, without Ben White. We lost William Saliba we lost William Saliba in the warm-up. We can talk about that in a moment. Who else am I missing here? We're missing somebody else as well. Martin Odegaard.
Martin Odegaard, did you say?
Of course, who was barely fit enough to come on. So, there is, I think, some mitigation, if you like, not an excuse, but a mitigation for the way that we approach this game. So why don't we just talk about that from the perspective of the lineup and what we thought we were going to see and what we might have done with Martin Odegaard missing. So there were options for Mikel Arteta. He could have played Ethan Nwaneri. He chose Mikel Merino in the absence of Odegaard. Mm-hmm. That did not surprise me at all. Like I said on the preview podcast when we were talking about this game on Friday or Saturday morning with Lewis, I was going, if Odegaard's not there, personally, my personal preference would be to play Nwaneri.
Yeah.
But I could understand if Mikel Arteta decided to go with Mikel Merino, a lot more experience in midfield at a ground where experience can be really, really useful, We've had some experiences at Anfield in the past. So, where do you stand on that one? Because when the lineup came out, there was, as there always is, a lot of reaction to the lineup and a lot of people saying, well, this is Arteta being too cautious or using language that, I don't particularly want to use on the podcast because I don't agree with it. But, there is a line, isn't there, between caution and sensible or common sense?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the thing is, because obviously since the game, I don't know, you put something up on social media, you put a video out on YouTube, and I've had a quick scan through the comments, and there are people who are calling on me or calling on pundits generally to kind of call the manager out, right, on what they see as a kind of inherently cautious approach. And to be clear, it's not like I have no sympathy with that perspective. I definitely think there are elements of truth in that. And we've spoken many times about the need to maybe embrace risk if we are to get over the line. But again, I just come back to the context. I think if this game was happening a few months into the season, we might see a very different starting 11.
Sure.
If Nwaneri had played more games in that number 8 at Premier League level and proven himself, I think every chance he might have started. If Eze wasn't a debutant, a guy who's barely trained with us for a week, then you'd think he would be in that starting 11. But you can only deal with the circumstances as they come. And so in those circumstances, I understood Mikel Merino playing. Is it what I would have done? Is it what I hope to see? Probably not. But we know this manager. We know him well. And it certainly wasn't a surprise to me. You know, no. I think I predicted it in midweek. I went on Charles Watts' show on his Patreon. And I think we all said, it was me, him and Simon Collins, we all said, yeah, there's really high chance it's going to be Merino. And it was. And I don't think beyond that, Martinelli on the left. I mean, did you think there was any chance of Eze being given the start?
I thought there was a chance simply because of, you know, what it might suggest when you go to a game at Liverpool and you've just signed this guy, you've pulled him out from under the noses of Spurs and like get him in there and get him going. But I also thought that there was something to the idea that Liverpool have a lot of threat down the right-hand side. Martinelli's best moment today was a piece of defensive intervention in the second half, which, you know, says a lot about the way he performed. But no, I wasn't surprised that it was Martinelli. And I suppose it might be worth pointing out that when we went here last season and went 2-0 down, it was Martinelli and Merino who scored the goals that got us back into that game. You know, so
that's true.
That's something that was maybe in the manager's mind. I think if it's a week later, Eze probably starts.
Yeah.
You know?
But Martinelli was a rational, logical choice given the fact that Szoboszlai was playing at fullback. You know, you imagine that would leave a lot of space in behind. You'd imagine that would put him in all sorts of one-on-one situations that he might find difficult. So I think Martinelli was a perfectly sensible choice, and you know it did mean that Arsenal had these options off the bench potentially to come on and make a difference, which, you know, in Eze's case very nearly happened. Maybe should have happened. So yeah, the starting lineup wasn't a great surprise. I think it did tell us a little bit about how Arteta viewed the game, how he viewed the circumstances. But I don't think it was, you know, there were still areas in the team where it looked like we could hurt them. You know, we still had our new star striker up top. We still had Madueke and Martinelli, in theory, running behind their fullbacks. So, yeah, obviously the plan goes awry a little bit early on. Well, in the warm-up, as you say, when William Saliba picks up that injury.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's what we learned after the game, was he picked up an injury in the warm-up. It was an ankle problem. What did he say? I just got his press conference up here. I haven't watched it, but he said he twisted his ankle during the warm-up. He said he came in and he believed he could carry on and play, but straight away in the first two actions I could see he couldn't cope. We had to get him out, unfortunately, but thank God we had Mosquera, which we put in for the first time in the Premier League. It was his debut, not expecting it at Anfield, and I think he was really, really good. Now, you know, nobody is going to want to hear this tonight, but I do think there were a couple of positive things, or some positive things about our performances, or some individual performances today, and Mosquera was definitely one of them. Like, we'll save the wider talk about injuries until part 2, because I've got a couple of questions about that. But, you know, it's another one, isn't it, where whatever your game plan is, whatever strategy you have in place for a game at Anfield, like, if you are going to pick that midfield of Zubimendi, Rice, Merino, you know, it is about containment to an extent rather than ambition, right? But part of that containment is based on the fact that you've got William Saliba and Gabriel as your central defenders. And to lose a player as important as William Saliba in, 3-4 minutes into the game, that's a really, really huge blow. Like, you know, I do think we have to think about these things when we talk about the overall performance, and we talk about, you know, what we were able to do. What happens to Liverpool if they lose Virgil van Dijk? You know, after 4 minutes, I think it's, you know, it has an impact on the way that they, at least the way they feel they can play in a game like this, right?
Oh, it's massive for them.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to really give our praise and flowers to Christian Mosquera, because I thought he was superb in the circumstances. You know, it's not just Saliba being injured. Ben White's out. Jakub Kiwior is on his way to Porto, and we've not got his replacement in yet. So we are a little bit light in that part of the pitch. But a bit like Ethan Nwaneri being brought on for Martin Odegaard in the last game, this was a show of faith, a show of confidence in Mosquera.
Mm-hmm.
And he, to be honest, he's not put a foot wrong.
No,
since he came into the club.
He was really good. Really, really, really calm and assured. And I think that's what we said when we saw him in the sort of preseason games and the bits and pieces that we have seen of him so far. He does not look like a guy who gets flustered easily. And like this is a big, big game away from home at Anfield against a really, really good team, some really, really good players, a crowd that has a kind of energy that we all know about. And I think he just he went into Zen mode and played his way through that in a really, really impressive way.
Yeah, some good centre-halves on that pitch. Gabriel, Van Dijk, Konate, and Mosquera did not look out of place at all.
Not at all.
Big credit as well to Gabriel. He's wearing the captain's armband on the day, and I'm sure there were probably moments in that game where he had to play the senior partner and help Mosquera get into the game and through it. But between them, I thought they covered for Saliba's absence brilliantly. Mm-hmm.
There's a moment I think that probably will spark some discussion, which is about 10 or 11 minutes in the game, where Gabriel Martinelli is on the ball in the Liverpool half. We got it forward quite well. And there was a chance, I think, to play a pass to Viktor Gyokeres, who made a run in behind. But Martinelli held on to the ball, took it into the box, and ultimately lost possession, or I think it went out for a goal kick or whatever it was. And it felt like the most 2025 Gabriel Martinelli moment there could possibly be, right? Mm-hmm. It's a sort of everything, all the concerns that people have about the way his game has gone were evident in that moment. Like, we need players who can feed Gyokeres, but if you are going to take responsibility and you are going to drive into the box, you need to be a bit more head up. You need to be a bit more aware of what's around you rather than just sort of, look at your feet and look at the ball and then it goes out for a goal kick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think that is going to be a talking point coming out of the game. This was a disappointing moment. Gyokeres did well. He kind of held his run. And there was a clear moment, I think, Gary Neville pointed it out in the analysis, where you saw him go and the pass had to go at that moment. And it didn't happen. And that's really frustrating. Obviously, if you then keep the ball and try and make something happen yourself, you really do need to justify it. And Martinelli didn't do that. It wasn't the only moment in the first half where I felt like he just came up a bit short against a guy, again, who's not even playing his primary position, who's not even really a fullback. And that's to take nothing away from Szoboszlai, who was the man of the match. But I feel that when Martinelli, goes back over this game, he will see there's moments that he should have affected the game more. And unfortunately, that is part of a bit of a pattern of late.
He does feel like a guy who's pretty low on confidence at this moment in time, doesn't he?
For sure. And he looks like a guy, to me, who has just lost that kind of automatic instinct. Looks like a guy who's trying to work out the solution. And that's not really when attackers thrive. It's when they're just playing off the cuff.
Sure.
At their very best. And I don't think he has the sort of base level of confidence right now to do that. That was frustrating. And, with Gyokeres, obviously he had a couple of goals against Leeds, and that's great and very exciting. I do still think there is a way to go in terms of our adaptation to him. Because really, there is no point having a player making those runs and playing on the shoulder like that if you're not set up to or inclined to look to find him.
Yeah.
So, he had quite a quiet, anonymous game, really.
Sure.
But I just don't think... I think as encouraging as Leeds was, I always thought it would take time, and I still think suggests it's going to take more time.
No, I agree with that. I suppose there were moments in the first half where we did look a bit dangerous, and those came primarily through Noni Madueke down the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Where I think he showed you, or he showed Martinelli kind of what you need to do in those situations when you get the ball in those areas, is the directness and the aggression to take on the fullback, whether you beat him or not. You know, he had Gyokeres for pace. There's no two ways about that. But it was that determination to get into the box, the determination to try and drive beyond the fullback, that Martinelli feels completely inhibited at this moment in time, whereas Madueke, in his favourite position on that right-hand side, was probably our most dangerous player in that first half. There were a couple of moments where, you know, he had a shot blocked, he won a couple of corners, he had a shot saved at the near post by Alisson. Like, he wasn't perfect by any means, but there was something to like about the way that he tried to play the game.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I thought he carried a threat. Gyokeres, you could see, was kind of always struggling against him. Madueke definitely had the beating of him for speed, for power, for skill at times. And I thought this was an encouraging performance. I think there's been a lot of talk about Madueke on the left, and I think partly because Martinelli's been struggling, you know, especially before Eze signed, there was talk of, could he be the guy on the left? Could he be the guy on the left? We've got to remember that that spot in the squad that he filled today, the Saka backup, has been an issue in this squad for quite a long time.
Sure.
Like, we've seen Martinelli have a stab at doing it. We've seen Leandro Trossard out there at times. Obviously, we saw Raheem Sterling for periods last season. And nothing has really convinced, or certainly got close to replacing the sort of level of threat that Saka carries.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to tell you that Noni Madueke is Bukayo Saka, but I think he did a very decent job on that side. And, I think consequently, you know, as much as we always miss Saka, I don't think we missed him quite as much as we might have done. I think it was a good performance from Madueke.
Yeah, I agree.
And hopefully shows that signing will sort of do its job.
So, like, first half, I think Arsenal generally were the better team. It was, again, very cautious. It felt like two teams kind of cancelling each other out. You know, there weren't massive chances for either side. The XG at the end of the first half was 0.34 for Arsenal, 0.09 for Liverpool, which I think, you know, as we try and analyse this game through our own frustration, right? When people previewed this game, they talked about Liverpool being defensively suspect, which might be true.
A few goals.
You know, in their first couple of games, which I still think is too small a sample size to really be definitive about a team and where it's strong and where it's weak. But that was the thing people pointed out. But where people had no doubt about Liverpool was the attack and the threat that they posed. So from an Arsenal perspective, if you're going into halftime 0-0 at Anfield and Liverpool have basically had nothing, apart from maybe the moment when David Raya made a really careless pass, I think, to Zubamendi, and Van Dijk won the ball. I don't know why Van Dijk didn't shoot there. I really don't. He tried a pass, which I think Rice intercepted, and then Rice maybe made a block from Wirtz, I think, from a shot. That was a moment where Liverpool could have caused us a problem, but it was a problem that we made, you know, ourselves, rather than Liverpool taking us apart. So if you're Mikel Arteta, you're going in at halftime and you're saying, okay, maybe, you know, we're erring on the side of caution, for better or worse, but we have basically kept the best attacking team in the Premier League to 0 in that first half. You're going to be relatively pleased.
Yeah, I think so. Like I say, it was a very composed first half performance, especially when you consider we'd lost a key player to injury in the early stages. You know, Liverpool would have been licking their lips at that, and yet they offered almost no threat. I mean, we'll come back to that, but, you know, I was not particularly impressed with Liverpool today. I did not think that this looked, certainly going forward, like the Liverpool of last season. And Arsenal deserve credit for that too, obviously, with a good defensive display.
Sure.
But yeah, I slightly had that nagging feeling you always do in a game like this, where you're like, I don't think Liverpool... I sort of expected Liverpool's level to be a bit better in the second half.
Yes, me too.
particularly at home. You sort of think they will get it together eventually. And I do think that sort of happened, as the second half started. There was a bit more purpose. Maybe they made a couple of tweaks, a couple of adaptations. I think they were getting around us in their own half a little bit easier and getting on the ball in the midfield. So the game, I wouldn't say it went away from us in the second half, but certainly they came into it a little bit stronger.
No, I think that's fair. So this is where maybe some of the interesting discussion takes place, is like, could Arsenal have done more to build on that first half? Like, was there scope, let's say, for an earlier change? Was Martinelli's performance sufficiently ineffective, let's say, to think, okay, I can bring Eze on at halftime and maybe do something there and change the dynamic a little bit, because I think it's normal that when you go to somewhere like Liverpool or any big team, that if you have been marginally on top in the first half, there's going to be a period in the second half, unless you absolutely play them off the park and have a blinding performance. There is going to be a period in a game, particularly when it's 0-0, that they have a little bit more control, a little bit more domination. I think that sort of happened from around the hour mark to about 75 minutes. I thought they were more on top than we were at that stage.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But then maybe as well, we have to look at what... There were some limitations on the manager in terms of what he could do. It's not like he had... it's not like he started with Saka and he had a Madueke to come on. It's not like he had Kai Havertz available. The changes really to make were, I guess, Odegaard and Eze. He made them on 70 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking back to Old Trafford. I seem to recall he made changes in that game a bit earlier, around the hour mark, something like that. Would that have made much difference, though? I'm not sure, to be honest with you, Andrew. I have to be honest and say, if you told me before the game, yeah, you're going to be in it, it's going to be 0-0, and you're going to be bringing Odegaard and Eze on with 20 minutes to go, I think I would have said that's a pretty strong position to be in.
Yeah, this is where I would have liked to have seen at least one of those players a bit earlier. And again, the mitigation, of course, or the thing we have to consider is how fit Odegaard was.
Which we don't really know. I think he trained. I think he's probably playing with injections or something like that to get through it. He hadn't done a lot of training. So yeah, maybe 20 minutes was the max for him. Could you have got Eze on earlier? Could you have got Nwaneri on earlier?
Well, there's a question. I actually have some questions about Nwaneri in part 2, but I do think that was maybe a player we could have done with. That if you're not, if Martin Odegaard's not 100% fit, and I get the seniority thing, and I get you're going to err on the side of experience, but maybe if he's not 100% fit, is Nwaneri a player that you could get on in this game ahead of Odegaard? If he's not 100% fit, is a 75% fit Odegaard better than 100% fit Nwaneri? There's a $1 million question. But, again, it wasn't really like this was a half of football in which we were being hammered by Liverpool. I think they were more in it. There were more moments where they had some shots on goal, but they weren't particularly threatening. Raya made
a couple of sighters, didn't they?
Yeah,
Birch had one, and they had the ball in the net,
but offside.
Birch shot,
yeah,
it was offside.
It was offside.
Gakpo had a shot that was straight at Raya. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my notes. 65 minutes. I think Gakpo had that shot roughly, and I've written Liverpool better now. I'd change it. And it was 5 minutes later those changes were made. Yeah, I would have liked to see them a little bit earlier too. But I've got to say that when those players did come on, I was thinking this is promising. This bodes well. We've got a strong team out there now. And I hoped that Odegaard and Eze could add something that we'd been missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you surprised at all that Mikel because even though it came later than you would have liked, they were still quite positive changes. You know, with Liverpool getting on top, his critics, his detractors would probably tell you that they would expect him to, I don't know, get on a Lewis Skelly or something like that and try and shut it down or close it out. But I thought,
well, the changes weren't designed to specifically hang on to a 0-0.
That's what I mean. And I think, this is the irony of ironies. I think I even remember Gary Neville potentially saying, like, this is the kind of change, Arsenal fans want him to make. Do you know what I mean? It's he did it. He did.
They weren't defensive changes. They were changes, I think, that, added, on paper, certainly added a lot. Martinelli had a poor game. Merino was fine, in the way that he's just fine. So you're looking, well, I'm not being critical. I think he was fine, but he didn't really do a great deal or offer a great deal of attacking threat or creativity. He doesn't have the same creativity as Martin Odegaard. So if you're taking,
think it hurts us as well. Like, I think I said this to you on WhatsApp, but if you think like last year in our first choice 11, you've got Havertz with Odegaard joining him in the press. I don't think Mikel Merino and a not fully fit Viktor Gyokeres get anywhere close to that.
That's completely true.
And I think that was allowing, particularly once we got into the second half, Liverpool to sort of circumnavigate us a bit.
There was a lovely moment from Odegaard, by the way, where we worked the ball sort of towards the Liverpool D, and he played this beautiful reverse pass. But I don't think Gyokeres was expecting it. This is where probably Mikel Arteta will talk about things like relationships and getting to know players and getting to understand your teammates and things like that, which is, completely normal and understandable. But Gyokeres, I think, was sort of caught in his heels a little bit. It was a really good reverse pass from Odegaard.
Yeah, nice move that. I think it was Eze into Odegaard and almost for Gyokeres.
Yeah.
So there were little moments of promise, and I thought, could one of these guys kind of unlock the game? I suppose it had that feeling of a game where it was maybe always going to be decided by one moment of quality.
Well, Arteta said that afterwards. It's either going to be decided by an individual mistake or a piece of brilliance or a magic moment, I think he called it, which I think is true. It is. This is where I come back to, like, I get all the frustration with, losing to Liverpool and could we have done more? Could we have been a bit more ambitious? I completely get it and I feel it. But at the same time, if Arsenal had won the game that way, we will be talking, about, what a, great character. People, the detractors, as you say, might say, well, it was a smash and grab from Arsenal to go to Anfield and they just sort of get a free kick and, win it late on. But that's kind of what Liverpool did, and nobody's really criticizing Liverpool for their performance because ultimately they've come away with 3 points, which is, I guess, the only thing that matters in the grand scheme of things. But, it makes for...
It's results-based analysis.
Yeah, exactly. You have to look at it in that way. I mean, what did you think of that moment, the free kick we gave away? What was, I've looked back at it.
I actually can't remember, Andrew, how it happened. Was it Zubimendi?
I tell you what happened was we had the ball we'd sort of worked the ball, and I think it was Calafiori tried to play a first-time pass into Eze on the left-hand side, but it was cut out, and Liverpool played the ball backwards to Van Dijk, and Curtis Jones got between Zubimendi and Rice, and Van Dijk played like a 40-yard pass, boom, straight through, like right through the middle of our midfield. Which he
hits Van Dijk, I'm not sure there's another player in the Premier League who passes the ball with the pace on it that he does.
Yeah, and it works.
I really noticed that today. Like, he smacks that ball through the post.
Oh, sorry, I'm just turning the volume down on this.
And Jones got turned and Zubimendi was booked, wasn't he? I mean, it was one of those where it's one of those where you're thinking, well, that's probably not the worst foul in the world to give away, because we looked a bit vulnerable, but then obviously what happens?
Yeah, I mean, he played the odds, Zubamendi, there, because he and Rice were too far apart, or they weren't aware of where Curtis Jones was. That pass straight through the middle shouldn't really happen. He makes the foul, and he thinks, well, listen, it's 30 yards out. You know, I'll make that foul.
Because you said something interesting to me afterwards about when the free kick was awarded.
I was like, I wish it was closer. I wish it was closer to the edge of the box, because I think they're easier to defend than one which is like there, 30 yards. I mean, it requires something brilliant for it to go in, but if you can produce something brilliant for it, from that distance, I think you have a much better chance of scoring a goal than a free kick which is 6, 7, 8 yards closer to the goal. Like if it's on the edge of the D, I'd be less worried than I would be as to where that free kick was taken from. So,
mate, it still takes something pretty special.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean about Zubamendi. In that moment, was playing the odds. He was going, well, yeah, maybe someone can produce something extraordinary here, but like I've got to make that foul to stop him running towards our goal at this stage of the game, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the kind of cynicism you need in a winning team. I mean, there was a great one in the first half from Gabriel, wasn't there, on Salah, where he thought he might do me in the channel here, so he pretty much just wrenched him by the head and gave away the free kick.
Yeah.
But that's defending, and I think Zubamendi knew exactly what he was doing. And you're rolling the dice. You're saying, okay, you can have this shot 36, 32 yards out. I forget what it was.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. And what Szoboszlai produced was out of this world, really.
Yeah. I've had a few texts, from people about David Raya, the positioning of David Raya.
Szoboszlai said in his interview that he'd watched Raya a lot on other free kicks, and he knew his movements. He knew he makes that little jump to be back behind the wall, but then he shoots on that side. So it's not like, I always look at the keeper. I always think, could he be a bit further off his line? And we all know Joan Garcia catches it in his mouth.
Iñaki Kanya sitting on the bench going, God,
ruefully shaking his head.
I fucking told you.
But I do think this is a case where you just have to say, that is something really quite special.
I agree. We saw Declan Rice produce 2 incredible free kicks against Real Madrid last season where, even for a goalkeeper who's 9'6", or whatever Donnarumma is, he couldn't get near them. I think Raya...
Courtois, not Donnarumma.
Oh, Courtois, sorry. Yes, of course, sorry. Thank you for the correction.
I mean, Raya, listen, I'm watching it again and again.
Me too. Like,
yeah, if he's a foot and a half taller, if we have the world's first 7'3" goalkeeper,
if he's Mr. Stretch from the X-Men,
Stretch Armstrong's in goal. If Dalsim from Street Fighter's in goal, yes, he may keep it out, but.
I think that's a
I'm much more inclined, regrettably, I'm much more inclined to say that is just an extraordinary goal.
I think it's a close to a 10 out of 10 free kick, regardless of who is in goal, regardless of where he's positioned.
It's in off the post. Like sometimes you look at a free kick and it's kind of a little bit towards the middle of the goal, and you're thinking, well, I suppose he was unsighted by the wall. I mean, that is right in the corner of the net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough one.
No arguments from me. And the thing is, the stupid thing about football is, in that moment, this turns from a drab Liverpool display in which they sort of didn't really apply concerted pressure for any period against Arsenal at home to the stuff of champions.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the world we live in, and the analysis that we get.
But that's also football. That is, we have experienced and lived through eras, James, where there were drab games or games where we weren't doing anything and somebody produced something extraordinary for us to go and win a game and help us win things.
And we have yearned before for people who are good at kicking the ball for this precise reason.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something to be said. When Declan Rice scored those free kicks against Madrid, I think I spoke then about players who have this knack or capability or almost sort of supernatural facility to sort of seize the moment. And Szoboszlai in this game was absolutely on it. I mean, that crossfield pass he played was like a 60-yard pass from right back. Sometimes a top player is just, at the peak of their powers, at the top of their game, and they can make magical stuff happen. And unfortunately for us, unfortunately for Liverpool, that was Dominic Szoboszlai.
He was very, very good. I think, we had attacking players who maybe should have made him work harder in a position that's not his own. But I thought he did very well. He's a very, very, very good player, very smart player as well. So the question was then, could we react? Could we respond? There was a moment, I think, when Eze got into the box and he went down, and I was like, kick it into the goal, please, before anything. Could he have got the shot away?
Spoke about that. Someone sent me a quote, and I have to say, I haven't seen this interview, but the quote, "You have to put the ball in the back of the net. We were much better than last year when we drew the game. Today we have 3, 4, 5 situations inside the box, 1v1. Eze is completely through just to finish that action. You have to put the ball in the net if you want to win. Welcome to the Mikel Penitentiary, Richie."
I mean, I was willing him to just sort of shoot as soon as he got into the box there.
Yeah.
I don't know why he was hanging on to it, but, again, maybe it's, I don't know. Who knows?
I think it's, we've always said he's an Arsenal man through and through. It's kind of Arsenal heritage to hold on to the ball and overcomplicate it rather than getting the shot.
I'm at Arsenal. Instead of twatting it into the back of the net from 20 yards, I am now going to try and walk it in at every opportunity.
Listen, that's Arsenal DNA. Yeah, that was a moment for sure. But yeah, there weren't really clear-cut chances, were there? Let's be honest. I mean, there weren't a ton of chances in the game, full stop.
No, I mean, it's really, really low XG, as we said, Second half XG, 0.21 for Arsenal, 0.36 for Liverpool. Again, the total's 0.55, 0.45. So, between the two sides, one expected goal over the course of 90 minutes and two teams who you would probably expect to create a great deal more than that. Like I said, I think we cancelled each other out. Another day it ends 0-0. We come away, go into the interlull and say, well, a point at Anfield's pretty decent, Point at the Champions, we'll take that back home every day. We'd like to win, but can't argue with a point. And we can go into the interlull and lick our wounds a little bit and hope that some players get fit again. But of course, when something like that happens, it just sort of obviously changes how you feel about things and changes how people are going to talk about it. But I genuinely don't think this was exclusively terrible from Arsenal or anything like that. I think if you're going to say it was terrible, it was probably terrible for both sides or below par for both sides. And Liverpool had a moment which was incredible and won them the game, and we didn't have that moment. And that's really all there was in this game, as much as you want to discuss the way we could have potentially changed things or maybe shifted the dynamic a little bit. But just disappointing.
I touched on this earlier, but really I did come out of it. I'm not going to say I was sort of buoyed by it or buoyed, as Elliot would say, but I think I didn't see anything that made me think Arsenal can't win the league this year. I really do think that Liverpool, I know it's slightly ominous, they've won their first 3 games, but they don't look to me to be the side they were last season.
There was no gulf between the two teams today.
Absolutely not. I mean, this was as even a game, I think, as you'll find, and it was decided by a very, very fine margin. So when I look at the weekend in context, I think, do they look markedly better than us? No. I look at Man City beaten for twice in 2 weeks by Brighton, and I think And also, I look at our return from the first 3 games. I look at 6 points from 3 fixtures that include a trip to Old Trafford and a trip to Anfield. I don't really feel or identify with any sense of despondency. I think we're in decent nick, we're in decent shape. It didn't go our way. If we'd had our best team out there, it might have been different. If the luck had fallen slightly differently, it might have been different. But yeah, I don't see any signs to panic, I guess.
Yeah, my counter to that, or slight, it's not. I don't even disagree with you there, but I do have something that is making me slightly panic and making me worry a little bit. When you say there's something that you see, or you don't see anything that could stop Arsenal being champions, I see one thing in particular, but I'm going to save that.
Oh, okay.
For part 2, because I'm going to ask a question of you when we kick off part 2. That is the concern that I have. Not necessarily the performance today. I think it happens at big teams, and tight games can go one way or they can go the other way. But there is one sort of big issue that I'm slightly worried about. So why don't we take a break here? We'll come back with your questions and more in part 2 right after this. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 of the show where we answer the questions that you sent to us on Blue Sky at gunnerblog.bsky.social and also at arseblog.com, also on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. And if you're not, why wouldn't you be? And if you can't be, don't worry about it. But if you can, it's good. Anyway, I sort of teased the first question here about...
You did deliciously so, Andrew. I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Okay. So the one thing that I think might stop Arsenal winning the title this season
is voodoo.
Well, yes, voodoo. I don't know who we've displeased, but we've definitely displeased somebody because they're dropping like flies. It's fair to say. And we had some questions. ATX Bergkamp Lover 6969420 says, do we need to be concerned about the number of injuries already piling up? Yes. But Yags says, why are we losing so many players to injury so early this season? Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, William Saliba, Christian Norgard, Ben White, so many and so continuously. This can't be just bad luck, can it? Are we doing something wrong in this space? And my question is, this can't be sustainable. You can't, as deep as the squad that we've got, you can't keep losing players at the rate we're losing players and hope to be title challengers.
Imagine if I told you, Andrew, 3 games into the season, we would have lost Saliba, Odegaard, Saka and Havertz. It is quite extraordinary.
And Ben White.
And Ben White and Julian Timber looked to be struggling.
He did towards the end, yeah. I don't know what happened there with him and Gakpo, where Gakpo went to help him up and Timber just didn't get up. And then he said, hey, why aren't you helping me up? And then he went to help him up again and he just didn't get up. I was going, we're trying to get a goal here, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
I to be honest, I don't think he was really in any fit state to carry on. He ended up just sort of staying up at number 9, didn't he? Didn't even get back after that point. Are we doing anything wrong? The boring answer is to say it's really difficult to know from the outside, isn't it? You have to think that coming off the season we had last season, you have to think that Arsenal, and knowing Mikel Arteta, I absolutely believe this, will have left no stone unturned in their attempt to prevent injuries happening. And yet, here we are. We can speculate on, is the training preparation right? But without being on the inside, it's almost impossible to know.
Is it all Gabriel Aintz's fault? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, listen, Andrew, I just keep coming back to voodoo.
I mean, it's a big problem. I'm sorry. I know we don't know and we can't say, and you've all these, are the training pitches too hard? That one was doing the rounds for years and years and years. Is it just a bit of bad luck, a bad coincidence? Maybe.
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, but sort of speaking from a journalistic perspective and based on the conversations I've had, obviously, I'm not in the room. I'm not on the training pitch. I don't think there's any doubt that Mikel Arteta works these players hard. Like, that is a theme of his coaching, his preparation. They train hard. And I think this pre-season even was pretty, especially given the conditions, quite grueling at times. But presumably, and I'm not a professional, presumably there is strategy and planning and thinking that underpins all of that. And it must be designed to avoid what we're seeing happen here.
I mean, the Odegaard one's sort of, that happens. He was fouled in a game. He fell awkwardly. You get hurt. Like, there's nothing about your preparation or there's nothing about your training
nothing
that can prevent that, right? Or a bad tackle or whatever it was. Like Saliba today just sprained his ankle. Probably just, it happens. You go over on your ankle. How many times have you done it? As anybody listening to this, how many times have you done it when you were playing football, whatever level you played football, just, oh, what the fuck? Why did my ankle do that? I don't think that's necessarily a consequence of overtraining or too much training or grueling or whatever. Where I think you might ask questions are the muscular injuries, whether they're preventable or whether they require a bit more investigation or a bit more introspection, but I don't know. The reality is, though, it's really, really worrying because we have a lot of players out injured. We may have more today, after Saliba. We'll see what happens with Timber. Maybe this is a well-timed interlull for once, no?
I think it probably is. Maybe not in terms of sort of the analysis we might have to stomach and the slightly gloomy mood we might have to put up with over the next couple of weeks, but in terms of getting some players back, I think it could be really important. Bukayo Saka won't be too far away once that period's over. Martin Odegaard, you'd think, would be back. Ben White might have a chance. Christian Norgard, could come back into contention, you'd like to think. So there's a few. I forgot about him, by the way.
Yeah.
In the list of absentees. So yeah, it is a really big concern. It derailed our season last season. We've built a squad that's kind of, I think, designed to enable us to kind of withstand injuries, but that doesn't mean we want them, and it doesn't mean they're welcome.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's I should have seen that coming when you said there was one thing worrying you. The injuries are a big concern. Big concern.
Okay, your question.
Here's a question, because I meant to touch on this in our sort of breakdown of the game. But Nick Craw on Blue Sky said, why did Declan Rice switch from in-swinger to out-swinger corners? And to be fair, I think he means more Arsenal. I don't expect Declan Rice to take in-swingers with his left foot from the right-hand side.
Declan Rice is very good, but he's no Santi Cazorla. Come on.
Yeah, but what did you... I mean, our corners on the day, I mean... In a game where the margins are so tight, that is an area where time after time we have profited. And unfortunately, it didn't happen for us at all, did it, really?
No.
I think we had 8 corners in the game and didn't generate a chance.
No, I think they said on Sky that we took 4 outswinging corners in the first half against Liverpool. We took 4 outswinging corners in the whole of last season. So the only thing I can think of is that the only other left-footed player in the squad, I mean, Merino you want in there because he's a threat. Calafiori you want in there because he's a threat. And I'm guessing that Madueke's set-piece delivery is not considered sufficient or good enough or consistent enough. I don't know. I mean,
we've seen Declan Rice deliver if not so much outswinging corners, but certainly free kicks from out on that side that have been quite dangerous, sweeping balls across the box. But yeah, it didn't happen. Liverpool, to their credit, dealt with it pretty well. And, we were beaten ourselves by a dead ball.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I do think if you're a professional footballer, taking a corner should be within your remit.
Right. Whether if you're Noni Madueke and you're a winger,
spend the week practicing fucking corners. If you know Martin Odegaard, it's like, no, genuinely though, I don't listen. Declan Rice's delivery from corners, and we said this on the last podcast. I said this to you that the consistency of it was Beckham-esque, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a big compliment because it's not easy to deliver corners consistently. It isn't, because not every player can do it. But I do think if you're in that situation and you're thinking, well, we don't have Odegaard, we don't have Bukayo Saka to take a corner, we want to take an in-swinging corner, could we not do a week of work on the training ground with Madueke and see, can he do it? I mean, I don't think that's, the reason why we lost today, but it is a bit of a change because I do feel like a lot of the routines are based around the ball in swinging rather than out swinging, right? So
yeah,
it maybe negated us or blunted us a little bit from set pieces.
Yeah, we were definitely disrupted in that, and on other days that's been a difference maker for us, and it didn't work for us on this one. Okay,
here's one. Or a couple people asked this question. I think it's a good question. Boston folks say Saka in their car. They say, evening, gents. How pissed would you be if you were Ethan Nwaneri and, as good as he is, 15-year-old Max Dowman is getting on ahead of you when we need a goal? And an ode to the captain said, what are your thoughts on the Dowman substitution today? It felt a bit narrative to me and had an adverse effect as Madueke was our only real threat to that point, while Dowman showed that he is only 15 and needs time to build up to this type of game. And I have to say, I was a bit. I looked at that and went, "Oh, I don't think that's a great idea."
We don't see what they're seeing in training, but yeah, it was. It raised eyebrows on my face. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, me too.
And I would imagine, if you are Ethan Nwaneri, or, by the way, if you're Leandro Trossard,
Yes. Well, to be fair, the mitigation I would give there is that Trossard was listed as somebody who probably wouldn't even be in the squad by Mikel Arteta in his pre-game press conference, where he said, we're probably going to be without Leandro Trossard. So I'm guessing there was a fitness issue there from Trossard's perspective, but I take your point on that. But Ethan Nwaneri scored 9 goals for Arsenal from that very position last season, and we needed a goal, and we all loved the Max Dowman story and the romance of it and everything. But is this not, people will say, oh, well, Arteta's too cautious. Is this not going too far the other way? Should he not have been a bit more cautious and brought on the 18-year-old and not the 15-year-old?
Yeah, we need to...
As much as that might be seen as cautious,
We need to decide what we're saying here. I mean, do you think that they've just decided that Ethan can't play on the right? I did hear, it would have been a sort of March, April time last year, that Arsenal felt that, his performances on the right-hand side hadn't sort of maintained at the level that they started, that maybe some of his shortcomings in wide areas were being addressed by opposition. And some of his limitations in that role were being exposed a little bit. Now, I have to say, I'm just a layman, but I never really saw that for me. I thought he was doing pretty well. And the numbers suggest he was doing pretty well. But maybe they've just really committed to this thing of he is a central player. I don't think that's a sufficient explanation, if I'm honest with you. I'm just trying to figure it out.
I mean, for me, if you're looking for somebody who might produce? What did Arsenal need in the last 7 minutes of normal time and the 7 minutes of added time? They needed somebody to do something a little bit special. And Nwaneri's just got the ability to hit the ball in a way that not everybody in this squad can hit the ball.
Yeah.
And I was quite shocked, actually, to see Max Dowman come on. Like, he did great against Leeds. He won a penalty. I think that's kind of what Arteta decided on. He was thinking, well, he might be able to run at Gyokeres. The first couple of moments he had on the ball, he got kind of bodied off it. This is a slightly different level than playing Leeds, with all due respect to them. So I was actually a little bit shocked. And I think if I were Ethan Nwaneri on the coach home or the bus home or the train home or the plane home, whatever way they're getting home, trains, planes and automobiles, I would not be happy this evening because I think, we had a better chance of scoring a goal with Nwaneri than we did with Max Dowman. And that's not to be critical of Max Dowman, just to be clear. I just think there is a big difference between 15 and 18. There's a difference between a player who hasn't scored a goal at senior level and a guy who nearly got into double figures in goals for Arsenal last season. I think that was a misstep from Mikel Arteta.
I don't think he does many things by mistake, though.
Oh no, I don't think it was I think he made the wrong decision.
I think maybe it's equally possible that he felt, I don't know. Mm-hmm. We don't know. This is total speculation, but maybe he wanted to give Ethan that kick up the arse. We don't know. I find it hard to understand. I really do find that hard to understand. When I saw Max Dowman named on the bench, I was like, well, that makes sense. We're travelling with a young squad. Andre Harriman-Anous was involved in a Premier League game for the first time as well. 17-year-old. We're making up the numbers a bit. Max won the penalty against Leeds, and he did extraordinarily well for what he is. I do think that some of the analysis of his performance was a bit overblown, and that's not to take anything away from him. Yeah, this is a curious one. Maybe by the end of the season, we'll be like, Mikel knew. Look how brilliant Max is and the impact he's able to make. And it was absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But on the face of it, it is a strange one. And I think you're right. It's odd, isn't it? Because Ethan Nwaneri's a very young man himself. And yet in this scenario, he's very much the senior pro.
Yeah.
It's a curious one, and I think we'll have more conversations like this as the season goes on. I think back to last week, and Gabriel Martinelli didn't even get off the subs bench, and we were having conversations about him and how he might feel. I think back to United, and I think Jakub Kiwior was left out of the matchday squad, and we had a conversation about that.
Yeah.
I think the size of squad Arsenal have is going to lend itself to people being omitted, people not getting off the bench. And that's going to be a kind of accompaniment to the season.
Yeah.
And I suppose only when it's happening consistently or over a longer period can we really draw any conclusions from it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And of course, by the end of October, our squad size will be 3. So,
well, exactly. Well, listen. We did touch on this in part 1, but on the subject of injuries, Docker said, evening both, with 7 or 8 players missing due to an injury, how surprised are you that none of the injured players are called Ricardo Calafiori? And Henry Mooland said, evening guys, in an attempt to stay positive after the result, how impressed were you with Calafiori? He has started the season in fine form. He seems physically super fit. I mean, everybody touch wood, cross fingers, do whatever you can. His one-on-one defending also seems to have come a long way in a short space of time. Salah was quiet today.
I think Calafiori was fucking excellent today at Anfield. And it was one of those games where beforehand I was wondering, well, will he play Miles Lewis-Skelly? Calafiori, has been caught out a few times, one-on-one. Mo Salah, of course, is a brilliant, brilliant player. I thought Calafiori was brilliant today from start to finish. You know who had the most shots for Arsenal today?
I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be Ricardo Calafiori.
Yeah, him and Noni Madueke.
Right.
With 3 each.
Wow.
But I thought Calafiori's defending, this was the best defensive game I've seen Calafiori have. What the fuck? Sorry, I just knocked a can of Coke off my desk.
Not full.
Not full.
Okay.
Empty. It's been sitting there for a couple of days. I should put it in the recycling. I thought this was the best defensive game that he has had since he joined Arsenal. You know, I thought the anticipation, the reading of the game, how front-footed he was, how aggressive he was. There was one great tackle on Salah on halfway where Salah was trying to back in and do what he does and, you know, protect the ball and shield the ball. And Calafiori just sort of got around him and got a foot around him and got to the ball. And Salah was not happy about it. There was a couple of moments, I think, where he intercepted the ball really well in our box, made a couple of clearances in our box where when things were, you know, potentially about to break for Liverpool, there he was. So I have to say this was, you know, on a day where we're not happy, of course, I thought Calafiori was a real positive.
I thought it was very good as well. I think he's had a really strong start to the season. I have to be honest and say, you know, I am sort of just desperately hoping that he doesn't pick up an injury. I feel a bit traumatized by last season where every time he seemed to sort of get on a roll, he'd pull up with something. And yeah, I almost feel bad speaking it potentially into existence because I really hope he can avoid it. I think he's had such a stop-start beginning to his Arsenal career, and this does feel like a time where he's got a bit of momentum and he's making a big contribution. So I hope he can carry on. I assume he's going to go away with Italy.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, that worries me.
Well, of course, because, you know, he has this injury record. I mean, I don't doubt the talent that he has. But I was really pleased today to see him defend in the way that he did, you know, because that's what people will perceive. People go, he's brilliant, he's chaotic, he gets into positions high up the pitch that you don't expect him to get into, but like ultimately his job as a left back is to defend, and he did that superbly today, I think.
And played 90 minutes as well.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing for him. He doesn't always do that. So, I thought he was one of the real positives, for sure.
What about this one? Toby W-W.bsky.social says, my brother is adamant that with the free kick so far out, it's completely unnecessary to have a wall. A Szoboszlai can't hit it as fast when it's a dead ball in comparison to it moving from that sort of range. Is my brother on to something, or is he just at the second stage of grief? What's the second stage of grief? Is that weeping? What are the stages of grief? Weeping, crying,
the second stage
gnashing?
Of grief is removing the defensive wall.
Yeah. Anyway, he says, to clarify, no wall means Raya sees it better and can save it easily.
I'm watching it again, Andrew. I mean, I've heard that argument mounted before, that at a certain distance, you abandon the wall and you say to your keeper, save this. I just think the keeper's still got to stand somewhere. Like, he's moving back towards the middle of the goal when the ball is struck. I really think that if we're spending our time micro-analysing this goal, trying to figure out how it's preventable, I really think we're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah. I mean, would it not be fair to say that if, you know, after however many years the game of football has been played, not one team ever doesn't put a wall, that there's probably a reason for that?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's enough innovation in the game that you'd think.
Like we have guys lying down behind the wall now.
Yeah.
Carpet, what do you call them? Not carpet, fucking draft excluders.
Draft excluders. Yeah. I honestly think the wall and David Raya is not the reason we lost this game. And again, in an effort to sort of not over-index the events of one day, if David Raya starts regularly getting beat with free kicks, do you know what I mean? Then let's have this conversation. But
like he's some kind of Petr Cech or something.
Yeah, but I really do think this was just a pretty special strike.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sorry to be boring.
That's okay.
What about this? We had quite a lot of Gyokeres questions. Big Red Arsenal said, badly morning, chaps. 3 games is still a very small sample size, but what's your gut feeling about how the Gyokeres signing will turn out, and has it changed from when we first bought him? While I don't think he'll be a complete flop, I'll admit I'm slightly underwhelmed so far.
I wish we had Kai Havertz fit. And I don't mean that as like...
I didn't know what you were going to say.
I just
yeah,
mean
me
that,
too, me too, man, me too.
I think there is like an adaptation for Gyokeres. You know, I think there are technical limitations to his game. I think there are things that he does very well and other things that he's not going to do particularly well. You know, today, did he get any service? Not really. Like there was the moment we talked about in the first half where Martinelli should have played him in but didn't. There was a pass from Merino in the first half in the box where might have ended up with a shot for Madueke or Timber, actually. I think it might have been outside the box. He set up Timber for a shot, which was well blocked. And then there was like maybe a pass in the second half. He's not a guy who's going to just make something happen all on his own, really, is he? You know?
Well, he kind of
he
did
sort of did against Leeds,
I
I know, but we also played a pass over the top of the defence and gave him space to run into, which is fine. I just feel...
No, I mean, he's not Kanu, is he? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't give him the ball with 3 men around him and expect him to sort of wriggle out of it. He's certainly not that player.
He's not that player. I think his adaptation would be better, easier, and more productive if we also had Kai Havertz. And now I think there's a big onus on Gyokeres to produce and to sort of help lift the team on days where, you know, it's not really working for us. I do wonder, there is something in my mind about like the Eze Gyokeres relationship. Like is Gyokeres a bit Mateta?
Yeah.
You know? But then
maybe.
I don't know if Eze got a lot of assists for Mateta at all. I don't know.
Well, I think it's natural, isn't it, to be like, you know, we've bought this creative player. Maybe he can help us unlock this centre forward.
Yeah, I mean, we played not an uncreative midfield, but we did not play our most creative midfield today behind Viktor Gyokeres. You know, and I think it's also reasonable to point out that in whatever people might have talked about Liverpool before the game, defensively not great, etc., like Konate and Van Dijk is a brilliant central defensive partnership. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Konate was good today.
He was very good.
Great start to the season, but he was very good.
Yeah, you know.
Of course, it's extremely early, as the question said, and I do think this kind of adaptation was inevitable, and I think Gyokeres and Arsenal will probably have to meet in the middle. We've also reported on The Athletic that, and to be fair, like it's a logical thing, but that Mikel Arteta kind of planned on having Kai Havertz most likely starting these big games in the early part of the season.
Yes.
And can you imagine, by the way, the luxury of that? You know, if we were starting Havertz and, you know, using a player we know very well and playing to his strengths, and then with 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes even, bringing on Viktor Gyokeres to run into channels against tired defences when games become stretched. I mean, wow, what a luxury that would be, instead of a situation where we've got a Gyokeres that I don't personally believe is fully fit yet, having to do 90 minutes because what we've got on the bench is 17-year-old Andre Harriman Anus. who's not played a Premier League game. So I think there's a lot of mitigation and a lot of things to consider. I hadn't seen a great deal of Gyokeres when he signed, and of course, the goal record and the goal compilations are all very, very appealing and exciting. There definitely are, to my eye at this stage, rough edges to his game. Like,
sure.
He's never going to be, I think, the smoothest player. He is a bit of a bulldozer type. And unfortunately, when you are a bulldozer type, I guess you need to be at your absolute physical peak in order to maximise that. And I'm just not sure he's there yet. And I think, the international break, again, comes at quite a good time for him. He'll probably go away to Sweden, but again, it will help him get some more minutes, build himself up. I think there's a way to go, and I think that it's a process, isn't it? And we're still in the early stage of it. And I think he'll continue to score goals, by the way, while this is going on. Like, I'm not looking at him and thinking, oh, he's going to go 5 games without a goal or 10 games without a goal. I think he'll score goals, as he showed against Leeds. I just think in terms of sort of the fit and the best out of him, I think evidently we're not there yet.
No, I think that's fair. Okay, a couple of quick ones to finish, because we've got to get this out. It's getting late.
We've got to get it to the people.
Got to get it to the people. Backsack and Crack says, if a bid came in for Martinelli tonight, would you accept it? And Mohammed H says, does that performance today mean time is up for Martinelli as a first-team starter for Arsenal? You have to feel that when Saka is fit, either Madueke or Eze now play on the left.
Yeah. We spoke last week about this, didn't we? As like a potential wild card. I think Saka being injured, even if we expect him back relatively soon, and Havertz being injured as well, I think it makes it a bit more difficult to let him go. I think it would have to be a really good offer for it to happen right now. But do I think the writing is on the wall generally for Martinelli? Like, do I think he's getting another contract at Arsenal? No.
Right.
That's what I think. What do you think?
I think you're spot on. We can't, unless the money is absolutely sensational, with Saka injured and with Havertz injured, we need Martinelli. Whether he plays that much, we still need him. Look at what Chelsea did this weekend with Nicholas Jackson. They were going to loan him out, and then Liam Delap got injured, and they said, no, we don't want you, by the way. You haven't played with us in pre-season. We've told you. Todd Bowley rang Nicholas Jackson up, and he said, I just want to tell you you're a cunt. And, they've treated him like that all summer, but they're saying, no, you got to stay. And that is the reality of the injury issues that we have up front, So I think I spoke about this with Lewis, by the way, a little bit on the preview podcast, that maybe in this period, with the way that we're trying to play, or hoping that we're going to try and play with Gyokeres, there's a sort of similarity between Gyokeres and Martinelli as a 9.
Yeah.
So maybe it makes a little bit more sense to give him a few minutes there. And look, we've got a lot of games coming up, and I wouldn't sell him, but I'm with you. I don't think... I would be surprised, let's say, if Gabriel Martinelli was an Arsenal player this time next year.
And the thing is, Gabriel Martinelli, and he's been very vocal about this, he absolutely loves playing for Arsenal. He absolutely loves it. He loves Arsenal. It is his home. And he's never really had a great deal of interest, I think, in going elsewhere. But I think it's at a point for him where I would certainly be starting to have conversations about what is the right club for me to take the next step in my career. Because actually, I'm not even sure, and this is not to sort of absolve Gabriel Martinelli of any blame, but I'm not really sure that a Mikel Arteta Arsenal team is really the team to get the very best out of Gabriel Martinelli. I think there are other teams, maybe not as good teams, but who stylistically would suit him so much more. And I think that might be the sort of move he has to make. He might have to think, what's going to really showcase me? What's going to enable me to find my confidence again? But do I think that's going to happen tomorrow?
No.
Well,
let's go just before we finish, because it is transfer deadline day tomorrow.
Yeah.
What are we expecting from Arsenal? There's obviously the potential arrival of Piero Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen. The story is he's travelled to London, but is waiting permission to do a medical and all that kind of stuff. But what are we expecting from Arsenal on deadline day? Beyond Hincapié, it's going to be players going out, right?
Yeah, I mean, Jakub Kiwior is obviously the one that's most directly linked to that. Those deals have basically been done in parallel. So it's kind of one in, one out. And then beyond that, who are we thinking? I mean, it's all the usual suspects, isn't it? Your Fabio Vieira's, your Reece Nelson's.
I got a Blue Sky message earlier, by the way, from, let me just give this guy his...
From Reece Nelson.
Christopher Nelson. It came from, Dullard 101.
Okay. Sounds like a tier 1 source.
Yeah.
Carry on.
He said, I just shook hands with Fabio Vieira at Luton Airport. He was sat with all the plebs. And I said, did you ask where he's off to? He said, I didn't. He was on the phone. Stuttgart, I guess.
Well, Stuttgart are flush with cash.
They are. They've sold a striker to Newcastle. So
yes, a very tall man. Another tall man in that Newcastle team. Just in time for opposite St James's. I mean, that would be good. It's gone a bit cold, that one, to be honest with you. I think they couldn't get close on price, Arsenal and Stuttgart, but maybe that will change now that they're rich. Reece Nelson, no idea. I think he's got some interest from Europe, from what I hear, from the continent. I think a couple of clubs in Spain and maybe Germany. Will that come to fruition in a move? You have to hope so, really, for Reece. Just going through the squad, thinking if there's anyone else. Karl Hayne went out.
Zinchenko,
Marseille, have Sim Sports, Emerson from West Ham as their left back. So I would imagine that ends their interest in Zinchenko. I think he might end up staying. I think he feels his options will be better in a year's time as a free transfer. I'm not sure he's had a great deal of options in this window. So
maybe a late loan or something if somebody comes in.
Maybe a late loan, but I mean, is there some merit to keeping him if we keep getting injuries at the rate that we're getting them? I don't know.
Reece Nelson and Alexander Zinchenko fire Arsenal to the Premier League title. The unfancied duo were the unlikely heroes for Mikel Arteta, etc., etc.
Their fate is to stay for the season and be left on the bench while Arteta brings on like 11-year-olds.
Yeah, we're bringing on fucking, I don't know who, some double-barrel name kid.
Santi Cazorla Jr. coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I hope they get some out. I think it would really help them out in terms of cash flow and in terms of FFP and all those things. But I think generally we reflect on it as on incoming as an incredibly positive window. I mean, the business has been unprecedented and extraordinary, really. The spending. I mean, going and deciding to do Hincapié as well for like double the money, albeit down the road that you get for Kiwior. I have to admit, I'm still slightly surprised by that.
It is a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because it's not maybe the Calafiori fitness situation is one that reads or looms large over this, and you would understand if they had some issues. But, there's Miles Lewis-Skelly to think about, and where's he going to play? And I don't know.
That's an interesting one to watch. And I think the Hincapié one is maybe with a bit of a dovetail with Ebeze maybe in mind. He's more of a natural overlapper, as I think Lewis pointed out last week.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, another big buy, another good player. But frankly, the way we're losing them to injury, we need them.
Yes, that is for sure. All right, listen, we better leave it there. It's nearly 10 to 10 at night, and I've got to get the rest of this out. And
go on, a quick last one from me to you then.
Okay.
I know it's more for the 30, but ahead of deadline day, are Liverpool going to get Isak? Yes or no?
Oh fuck! I don't know. I hope not. I mean, it makes their ownership look so weak. Like the biggest fucking losers that ever existed in football if they sell Alexander Isak now. They probably will. I will say yes, because that's kind of how this shit goes down. But I would love nothing more than for Newcastle to hold on to him, for Liverpool not to get him, and for it just to be a terrible situation for Newcastle to have to deal with, you know? Because I do think all the shit about like, you know, oh, well, Newcastle didn't keep their promises to Isak and he's entitled to go on strike and all that kind of stuff. Like, I've got no time for Newcastle. Fuck that. But like, Isak's behaved like a right twat this summer. And I
do sort of wish they would dig in, but I do think the direction of travel the last few days, I sort of get the feeling it's going to happen now.
Yeah.
Well, at least we've played at Anfield without him there, and then hopefully we go to St James's and he's not there either. That's one upside.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And if he is there, he's going to be miserable. He's going to be really unhappy.
Miserable as sin, yeah.
He's going to be really...
They'll be booing him out of the building.
Exactly. Until he scores a goal, and then they'll be like, yeah,
we always loved you.
I forgive you, because...
Kisses the badge.
Goals are currency.
Lucas Paqueta, that one was mad. I think there was talk of him not playing today for West Ham, and he was going to Villa, and then he scored and kissed the badge and said, I'm staying. And
he doesn't want to go to Villa. You see what happened to Villa this evening?
Yeah, they got tonked.
They got absolutely spanked by Crystal Palace, 3-0. It's the end for Unai.
They've scored a goal this season, Villa.
Have they not?
I think I'm right in saying
Mark Gay scored on what could potentially be his last appearance for Crystal Palace.
Fucking hell, if Liverpool get Gehi and Isak.
I know.
That's a decent window as well.
Did you see the interview with Unai Emery?
I've got it bookmarked, Andrew. I genuinely might even have been at halfway point of this podcast. Someone said it to me, and I thought I will thoroughly enjoy that later on.
Can I give the people a taste?
Please.
They said, "Where is Emi Martinez today?" And he said, "Marco Bizot." Do you feel like Emi Martinez is going to be here when the window closes? Marco Bizot. And he just kept answering the question.
Reminds me of last season. Do you remember that one where he just went, Europe, Europe, Europe,
Europe Bizot. Anyway, it's all fun and games at Villa Park. We'll see what happens.
Let's get it out to the people. We'll speak to you all
in a week.
Interlull.
In the interlull, yeah. It's a whole interlull, yeah. So we'll be back, whatever, next Monday, I guess, or Sunday, who knows. We'll work it out in the meantime. Thank you guys for being here a bit earlier than normal, but hope you appreciate the effort. The post game, this is not really our bag. You know, we need a bit more time to think about things. But we've done our best. We've done our best for you. Hope you enjoyed the show as always. Thanks as ever for being here, and we will catch you on the next one.
Bye bye.